Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com.
Welcome to Dakota Destinations. This week our adventures give us a little more insight into the sport of hunting. First we meet Arika Sanders out of Brookings, South Dakota, who's appeared in many sports shows across the country. And then we head to the southwest corner of South Dakota to showcase the hunt of a lifetime. So with that, let's get started on our first destination. Midco Sports' Alex Heinert introduces us to Arika Sanders in Brookings, South Dakota, and gives us more information on how she somewhat made a career out of hunting.
All right, Arika, you've had a love for the outdoors since you were little. Do you want to talk about growing up and what kind of instilled that love for nature in you?
Yep, I would have to say that my grandpa was the biggest influence on that. He owned a lake cabin. He always said that a family grows best around a bonfire and stuff. So that I would say was the biggest influence, was just my relationship with him.
So you kind of went through life, became a designer, worked for a design firm and kind of did that for a long time. And the outdoors were kind of on the back burner a little bit. What kind of got you back into that world that's now become your career? Yeah,
well, I have to give credit to a guy that I dated a while back. He actually was so active in the outdoors, and he was filmed for Realtree. And I just asked him one day, I was like, can I go hunt with you? And he's like, you'd want to? And I was like, I'd love to. So yeah, he taught me how to run camera. I would say that really kind of ignited my fire again, and just reminded my soul kind of where it really wanted to be. And that is in the outdoors. There's nothing better than sitting in a tree or on a hillside and in the morning when those birds and everything start chirping, and it's awesome.
Was that kind of the moment, or when was the moment, I guess I should ask, that you started to think, gosh, maybe I could do this for a living, make a career out of this?
Yeah, I think it was just the very first, we went to the trade show, the Archery Trade Association, and it really opened my eyes. Like, I was like, this is a whole world, and I was just so awestruck that there was just this whole business behind it, and I really just had no idea that world existed. And just like so many really awesome people in the industry. It's like a big family. There's just like so many people that I've gotten to be really good friends with over the years that, everybody's just like, wow, you know that person, and you forget that they're kind of like the celebrities. Sure. And you're just like, yeah, it's just Chris Brackett. That's but yeah, so it's cool.
You mentioned Chris. How did you kind of get hooked up with him? How did this sort of work, made that connection to start working with him in the Spear and Weevil career?
About 6 years ago, he just called me up out of the blue and said, hey, I'm going to be at the Iowa Deer Classic. Do you want to come down and just help me sell t-shirts and hang out in the booth, and let's talk about, what the future could be for you? He goes, I'd love for you to be on my show. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, I'd love to, because I'd always wanted to be on something and being more active in front of the camera, and just hadn't had that opportunity. And so he really just opened that door for me, and I jumped in, and I had a blast. We all were kind of like just these, kids that were grinding it out, trying to figure out, like, so if I was hunting, then Chip would film me, or Chris, and vice versa, and we would just flip-flop. And so really just kind of doing that. And then Chris brought me on too to also help with the graphic design side, so I designed the website and all that kind of stuff, and helped him with his marketing on that aspect. And so those guys are like really my brothers in the industry, and we're really tight.
You mentioned, again, just being a part of this team, and these are just normal guys, but this has become kind of a big deal. This is an award-winning show that you were a part of.
Yeah.
What was that like to get that news that your specific design stuff had been nominated for an award, and then to actually win for this show?
I mean, super exciting. Just to have it be nominated, and to have our peers really appreciate what we were doing, and noticing the love and everything that we were putting into it. Plus, a lot of the stuff that we were nominated for was from fan favorites and stuff like that. So to have the industry plus the fans really notice what we're doing is, it's kind of like an awestruck moment. And then when we won the Golden Moose, we were freaking out. It was really cool. So, yeah.
And you actually have a golden moose here in your apartment.
Yes, I do.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. Like everybody's like, what's a golden moose? But it's like the Oscars of the outdoor industry, which nobody's really, aware of. But yeah, and so Outdoor Channel, for them to really honor you and stuff is it's a big deal. It's pretty cool.
One of the other cool things you've gotten to do along with doing all this stuff from the television side is help out with a really cool foundation. Matt Light, former New England Patriot, and you have kind of worked together for the last 4 years or so on this turkey hunt for kids in Ohio. Do you want to talk about that? How you got hooked up with this whole thing? And what that's all about?
So I was at the Jurassic Classic with Brackett and selling t-shirts and just hanging out, and which is like a big festival in Ohio. And so this lady walks up to me and she's like, hey, I don't know if you'd even be interested, but there's this guy that I know that he does this youth hunt, and they're starting to get more girls, and they really would like to have a female guide. She's like, would you be interested? And I was just like, yeah. Like, I've always wanted to do stuff with kids. Like, the youth is just awesome. The kids have to write an essay to get in to it, and then they pick like 16 kids. So that first year we had 2 girls. And then now this last year I just got home from it, and we had 6 girls that, and there's probably more that entered the essay. They only picked 16. So we had 6 girls and 10 boys. This last year, Hope, one of the girls that I had taken a couple years ago, her mom came up to me after the event, and I started crying because it was just so cool. But she said, just talking about what an influence I was on Hope's life. And, and to me, that's just like the humbling aspect of it and what it's really all about.
Well, you've had obviously a great career in the outdoors and a great life in the outdoors, but obviously plenty to go. What's kind of next for your career, Arika?
Well, hopefully, if all things go right, I'm in the works of possibly getting my own show kind of put together. And with that aspect, I really want to keep it family-centered around my boys, do like small game hunts, prairie dogs, stuff around South Dakota, Minnesota, so I can spend as much quality time with my boys as possible and just be there to raise them and just have fun with them. And, maybe we'll be RVing. And homeschooling and RVing. You can't beat that.
Thanks to Alex Heinert for that story. Well, up next, we stick with the hunting theme and head to Custer State Park, where you can bring your hound to hunt a pretty big cat.
Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com. Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com.
Welcome back to Dakota Destinations. Well, President Calvin Coolidge referred to it as his summer White House, and over the years it's gained popularity for its incredible scenery. From views of the Wildlife Loop to Needles Highway, this destination is on the map for many reasons. Midco Sports' Max Jensen takes us to Custer State Park on a hunt for mountain lions.
Nestled in the Black Hills of South Dakota, one of the nation's most gorgeous attractions is Custer State Park. The park, named after Lieutenant Colonel George Custer, is home to countless unique creatures.
Well, Custer State Park is the second largest state park in the nation. It's 71,000 acres, and it has a diversity of wildlife resources here. We have everything from bison to antelope to elk, of course, and then we have a lot of game and non-game species as well. So people come here to enjoy bird watching, hiking, biking.
Not only will you see more than 1,500 bison roaming freely around the park, there are sure to be sightings of antelope, elk, deer, mountain goats, and even the occasional mountain lion.
The thing that I'm most interested in are the wildlife species here and, of course, the hunting seasons.
Hunting in the park is legal. Many residents of the state, as well as from around the country, take advantage of the hunting seasons.
So in Custer State Park, we have hunting seasons primarily for all our big game species,
including an exclusive bison hunt for residents and non-residents, deer, turkey, and mountain goats, to name a few.
Then, of course, the mountain lion season, which is our winter hunt, where we have both a boot, which is a ground hunt for people to be able to hunt these animals without hounds, and then we have a hound season as well.
And local hunters enjoy that option.
It's a great opportunity, and it's good for the park. I know it's been successful in restoring some of their game populations, and and they needed it because I think they had a big problem before.
The park has been great. I'm really glad that they opened it up to the use of hounds, and we've had some awesome hunts out here, a lot of good memories.
The purpose of these hunts is to establish equilibrium between the animal species in the park. According to Lehman, if any one type of species is disproportionate, it can keep Custer State Park and the Game, Fish, and Parks Department from meeting their species objectives.
Well, anytime you have populations that are overabundant, you could see some off-balancing, if you will. So if you have, for instance, in Custer State Park, we did some research on our elk population. We were at a very low number, around 250 animals in 2011 and 12. And we investigated that with a research study, a 3-year study. And what we found was when we started radio marking elk calves, we had a very high mortality rate and a very low survival rate on our elk calves. And the bulk of the reason for that, the cause-specific mortality, was from puma predation or mountain lion predation.
Mountain lion hunting became legal in South Dakota in 2004. Even prior to the early 2000s, Game, Fish, and Parks had started collecting data on the big cat population. What they found was a steady increase in the apex predator.
Typically, we probably estimate somewhere with our median values in that range of 250 to 350 in any given year.
As nocturnal animals, mountain lions can be difficult to track, which makes determining the population just as much of a challenge.
For people that come into Custer State Park to see a mountain lion, the opportunity is very limited. First of all, because they're moving at night, they're not moving around during the day. So a visitor that sees one, it's a really unique opportunity, but they're extremely rare because people hardly ever see them.
By 2010, Game, Fish, and Parks had over 80 radio-collared lions roaming the Black Hills. The collars allowed them to track these animals and to monitor patterns. Studying the mountain lions revealed some unsettling results.
So we saw this apex predator negatively influencing elk calf recruitment. And so there we thought that maybe we're out of balance, so to speak, with the predator and the prey there. So we wanted to try and figure out a way to increase our harvest on our cats inside Custer State Park. Hounds, you can typically have a higher success rate. And so that was where the idea came about, to bring in the hounds to try and increase our harvest on mountain lions.
The mountain lion season is broken down into sections. This year, the big cat hunts ran from December 26th through March 31st. There were 3 boot hunting sections, each lasting 2 weeks, and there were 4 hound hunting sections, each lasting 2 weeks. The season can end early if the harvest limit has been reached. Custer State Park is the only place in the Black Hills that allows hound hunting, but hunting mountain lions rarely occurs without little controversy.
Well, mountain lions are a controversial species because you have people that don't think we should hunt mountain lions. They're a large predator, an apex predator of importance in our ecosystem. And there's some folks that feel that they simply shouldn't be hunted. And then you've got a lot of our population that thinks there should be a balance between having and enjoying mountain lions and then also having a harvest on them and keeping them in balance within our ecosystem.
During the 2016 season, there were 6 mountain lions harvested in Custer State Park, all of which were hunted with the use of hounds. A total of 43 lions were harvested statewide, but no matter what side of the fence you are when it comes to hunting mountain lions, Lehman and the Game, Fish, and Parks Department feel they need to use the hunting seasons to their advantage.
You know, this is a tool that we're using with hound hunters in here, and it's effective and it's working, and I think it's a good collaboration between houndsmen and hunting and providing an opportunity to our public. It's a unique experience to the state of South Dakota, and I think it's a good thing.
When we come back from the break, we'll introduce you to a couple houndsmen that enjoy raising and training their dogs almost as much as the hunt itself.
Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com.
On a Thursday afternoon in April, Chris Weinberger is typically working with his construction company out of Piedmont, South Dakota. Originally from Forestburg, South Dakota, and yes, that's where you get those famous Forestburg melons, Weinberger came back to the Black Hills because of his love for the outdoors. He has passed that passion for the wilderness onto his 2 kids, who both love to camp, fish, and hunt. On this blustery day, Chris and his pal Ross Rohde invite us to meet some other members of their family, their hunting dogs.
Them dogs know what to do as soon as we cross the east cattle guard of the park. They know where we're at, and they're just going to be checking.
Now, it must be said no hunting took place during this meeting because the hunting season has ended. But we got an inside track how hound hunting really works, particularly when it comes to hunting mountain lions.
It's really the dogs and the dogs' work they do. It's not just the mountain lion. It's just like in hunting with the dogs, and with the dogs I get to hunt year-round. And of course the mountain lion is, you know, the top-notch apex predator. It's just quite a thrill.
Hunting with hounds is the ultimate for me. There's nothing better.
It takes a lot of sweat and time to get the hounds to hunt the way they're supposed to during these unique hunts.
Taking a dog, taking a pup from, you know, day one and turning it into something that works that hard and can pull that off. It's an incredible amount of work. Like I said, it just becomes a lifestyle. They're naturally bred to trail and tree, so you just have to implement into them what you want them to trail and tree, be it a raccoon or a bobcat or a mountain lion or bears. The hardest part is, you know, there's a lot more other stuff out there for them, like deer and elk and coyotes and fox, and so to keep them straight is the toughest part, I'd guess.
The mountain lion hunts can take place when there is snow or on dry ground, which by far the more difficult of the two.
Well, typically, if you're, you know, in the dry ground, the idea would be to set out on foot or on as many roads as you could with the dogs on the ground, and the idea is to hope to cross a track of a lion that was left, you know, the night before within, I would guess, 6 to 8 hours. You're trying to intercept that trail.
And once they intercept the trail, there is still a 50-50 shot of following the scent in the correct direction.
But the dry ground thing is super tough. It's incredibly tough. There's just so many other things out there for them to chase, and you got to be able to know right from wrong or what they're doing, you know, read their body language, listen to how they sound with what they're doing, and just off your experience hope that what they're doing is good.
During our trip, quite unexpectedly, we got lucky. We came across a deer that had been killed by a lion the night before. Weinberger grabbed 2 of his hunters and tried to set them on the trail. It didn't take long before we were on the path, trying to find an apex predator.
Obviously it's, you know, to catch one, to get one caught in tough conditions, you know, being dry and hot, and that's super gratifying. Put on enough miles to intercept that trail. There's not a tremendous amount of cats, so that would probably be the best, obviously, success, you know, catching one.
Again, the mountain lion hunting season is over in Custer State Park, so this was more of a gathering of information trek. We told the park what we had found and they set out a camera. The very next day, we got photos of what Chad Lehman, senior wildlife biologist, describes as a 2 to 3 year old male mountain lion. But having proof that there are cats in the area is just a start. Rhodey points out that while some people think hound hunting is easy, there's a big misconception.
Well, if you start a track, you know, guys will say, oh man, I ran that track all day long, finally got him treed. Well, the average person would think that you chased that cat all day long and then it finally went up a tree. Well, that ain't how it works, you know. If you put a dog on a cold track, that dog might track it all day long before it gets a tree, but that's because it took that long for him to catch up to that cat. Once they catch up to the cat, I'd say the average cat probably trees within a few hundred yards.
As Weinberger and Rhodey walk along, they talk about being part of over 100 lion hunts. Weinberger himself has only shot 1.
I didn't shoot them all. That's the nice thing about the hound hunting. It's like catch and release fishing. You don't have to shoot them. And, you know, I'll catch 12 a year and maybe only shoot 2, and that's great.
And there's no doubt what they see as the best part of the hunt.
The favorite part has got to be the last 200 yards of walking into a tree. The dogs are just going crazy, and you know what they got is good, and setting your eyes on it for the first time is the coolest part.
For both these guys, they have some outstanding memories.
It was a 70-degree day in February. It was that film that CJ had. Because that was probably the toughest conditions. It's hot, it's dry, it's been dry, and the way it all played out, they started that track and ran backwards for a long ways, and we just kind of hung tight and let them figure it out, and thinking we hit that trail and thinking we might have went backwards, and then just knowing that maybe we should grab a dog and go check around, and maybe we're on the wrong end of it, and we were on the wrong end of it, and 500 yards later that cat was laying there the whole time, and 500 yards later they had it in a tree.
The most memorable one would be the very first one that I went on. I went on a hunt up with my brother. He had already been hunting mountain lions for a few years, and he talked me into coming up and going with him. And it was a pretty rugged hunt, and we got a really nice cat, but that's probably my most memorable one.
While we were unable to find a mountain lion while we were out, we came close. And mountain lions are not the only things that can be hunted in Custer State Park. So if you're looking for a hunting destination, look no further than Custer State Park in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Thanks to Max Jensen for that story. Mountain lion hunting is only for South Dakota residents, and you can apply for a tag at Custer State Park's website that's listed below. Well, that's all we have for you on this week's episode. Join us next week for more Dakota Destinations.